Hello everybody, this is Donnie with Pvgna.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today is patch day, of course, and it is a pretty big update. It is patch 7.14 or 7.14, and we have some pretty interesting changes to go over. So I'm just going to read through them and demonstrate a few of the changes that we see and hopefully get you guys a good idea of what to expect in your pubs during these new patched games. So first of all, the big thing for competitive Dota, enabled techies and captains mode. Of course, this doesn't affect pubs at all, but it will be interesting because we have a big tournament and actually a slew of big tournaments coming up in the professional scene, which will now have techies as a potential viable pick. So teams that have been practicing it could have a big advantage depending on how strong the hero actually turns out to be in a competitive setting. The next really big change, and this is actually huge, is that the first creep wave no longer draws aggro on the side lanes until they meet the other wave. But this means that off lane is going to be even more difficult than it already was because you can no longer guarantee yourself a few free levels by pulling the creep wave in between your tier 1 and tier 2, last hitting and denying last hits from the enemy carry. So you're going to have to be creative as an offlaner now. This is going to definitely give a lot of value to heroes that can block the wave, like Earthshaker, Clockwork, Tusk, heroes that can pull the wave back, like Enigma and Lich, by denying creeps. And I assume that you can also pull, the second and third and other waves after that, but you definitely don't want to just wait around for a full, 30 seconds to pull the second wave. I would think it just seems like you'd be way too far behind. So we'll have to see how the offlane plays out now. It's going to be really interesting to see how the pros handle it. And I would definitely suggest that people run dual lanes a lot more in your pubs, because otherwise you're probably just going to get zoned out and your options are either to go jungle at minute 1 for way less experience or feed. So yeah, dual lanes are probably going to be buffed again. So let's get on to the item changes. Skull Basher now uses a mithril hammer instead of a javelin and gives 25 damage and 10 strength. Bash no longer pierces evasion. Subsequently, Abyssal Blade has the same change, and it doesn't say that it gives 10 strength, but I assume it does because Skull Basher is part of the recipe. Bash no longer pierces evasion. You don't get the true strike from the Bash, so that buffs evasion-based items or heroes. Monkey King Bar now uses a Demon Edge, Quarterstaff, and Javelin, gives 52 damage and 10 attack speed. Procs change from 60 pure damage to 100 magical. Like the Void's Bash, you are going to not take the damage if you are under the effects of BKB or other magic immunity, but you will, be hit if you have evasion. Maelstrom now uses a Javelin instead of Gloves of Haste and Recipe, so the cost is probably, I think it's about similar. No longer gives 25 attack speed. Chain Lightning damage increased from 120 to 170. Procs can no longer be evaded. Battle Fury gets nerfed by having a 300 gold recipe added, so you can no longer just assemble it, from the secret shop items, and a Quelling Blade. So this is definitely a nerf to just the item in general. No other changes to it. It's still a very good item, but it's a little bit more expensive, and you have to use the Courier one more time to actually get your Battle Fury. So I like that change. Blink Dagger cooldown has been increased for an extra second. Boots of Travel building prioritization range increased from 700 to 900. This is just a quality of life change that makes it so if you are, kind of just like clicking on the minimap, when you Boots of Travel somewhere, it will prioritize buildings over teleporting to the creep wave and putting you in a spot that you don't want to be in potentially. Dagon Mana cost has been rescaled from 180 to 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. So Dagon 5 is a little bit more mana, and every other level up to level 4 is less. Force Staff now requires a Ring of Regeneration instead of a Ring of Health. Total price is still the same. Mana cost increased from 25 to 100. That is massive. Health regen reduced from 5 to 2. So just nerfs to Force Staff in general. Hurricane Pike health regeneration reduced from 5.5 to 2. Mana cost increased from 25 to 100. Helm of the Dominator health regen decreased from 8 to 7. No longer grants +5 attack speed to the item holder, and the bounty on the creep that you dominate has been increased from 125 to 200. So this regen is really not that big of a deal. Just one regen. It's still very high. 7 is very high. This +5 attack speed is really not a big deal either. So this item is it's really not nerfed very much. You can still take siege creeps. It's still an excellent item for pushing. One regen should not be enough to change the efficacy of this item. So definitely still buy Helm of Dominator. Lincoln Sphere, all stats have been reduced from 15 to 13. That's kind of interesting. I don't think that they changed Ultimate Orb at all, but just less stats on Lincoln Sphere. I don't know why they would nerf this item. It's not really that good of an item already. Magic Wand now requires 150 gold recipe instead of a mango. Now provides +3 all stats instead of +2 all stats and 1.5 HP regen. Max charges have been increased from 17 to 20, so you can get a little bit more burst. Okay, so the cost is 450. Previously it was so it's 50 gold more than it was. Yeah, so nerf to Magic Wand. I mean, it's still such a good item. You should be getting it. But it's going to definitely change up the starting builds a little bit. Okay, so Enchanted Mango now on sale for 70 gold from 100. Health regen decreased from 1 to 0.7. Consumed mana restore reduced from 175 to 125. And daily bonus hero now gives 2 mangoes. Why? Necronomicon duration increased from 50 to 60, so the units stay for a full minute now. That's interesting. A little bit more uptime on that item. Phase boots. During phase, your base turn rate is improved to 1. The highest value can still be lowered by other effects. Active duration increased from 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds. Active speed reduced from 24/20% to 20/16%. So you could still slow someone's turn rate with Sticky Napalm, but the base turn rate is improved, which means that you can kind of just maneuver a little bit better. Observer Reward Gold and XP Bounty has been rescaled from a constant 100 gold and 100 experience to growing over time with 100 plus 2 per minute gold and 50 plus 4 per minute experience. Sanj recipe cost increased from 500 to 700, now grants greater maim. Yasha recipe cost increased from 500 to 700. So both Sanj and Yasha are slightly more expensive, and the total cost of Sanj and Yasha is now 400 more than it used to be. Mantis style recipe cost lowered from 900 to 500 to kind of compensate for this Yasha cost increase, but still a little bit. Yes, it's 200 gold cheaper than it was before. Overall. All right, let's get on to the hero changes. Axe base movement speed has been increased by 5. Battle Hunger mana cost rescaled from 75 to lower and scaling to 80 at level 4. So you can use Battle Hunger more often in lane. I think Axe could potentially be a pretty good offlaner. Battle Hunger has been buffed a lot recently. Battle Hunger has a much longer duration than it used to, does more damage. It's really, really good for trading with supports in the early stages of the lane. So if you just focus on one support, Battle Hunger them and trade with them while you're soaking experience, and then move on to the other support. It's just nice buffs to Axe. I mean, we'll still see whether this hero gets played in competitive, but as an Axe player myself, I like these changes. Bat Rider base strength increased by 3, so Bat is tankier now. Bloodseeker Bloodright ground vision now increased to match the AoE of the spell from 400 to 600. This is nice because before you would cast Bloodright, trying to find somebody in trees, for example, and you just get a much smaller vision than the AoE shows. So it's kind of a quality of life change, but it's also a pretty nice buff because 600 range for ground vision is quite good. Finding somebody to rupture them on high ground or around a corner that you can't see normally. Blood Rage cooldown reduced from 12, 10, 8, 6 to 9, 8, 7, 6. So 3-second change at level 1. And this actually means that previously with Blood Rage, you'd want to get at least level 2 so you could have 100% uptime. So now you can have 100% uptime with 1 point in Blood Rage, which is really interesting. So I think that's probably the build now, is you just get 1 point of Blood Rage and then you max your other skills. Broodmother, Spawn Spiderling, Spiderite Bounty reduced, Spiderling Bounty reduced, Spiderite armor, and Spiderling armor reduced from 8 to 0. So killing the Spiderlings is easier for physical damage. The mana cost has been reduced by 20. Cooldown has been reduced as you scale it up. And the damage has also been reduced 19% less. So just the spiders are less good, but they also give less gold and experience. Darkseer, Wall of Replica illusions, incoming damage reduced from 300 to 200. So they continue to buff Darkseer. It's interesting. Wall of Replica illusions outgoing damage increased from 60, 75, 90% to 70, 85, 100%. Wow, so that's a lot of damage. You just have a full damage illusion at level 3 of Wall of Replica, and the illusions now auto attack the hero it made the illusion of, but you can still control it. So it's like Terrorblade's reflection, but you can then take those units and have them attack other stuff. So that's cool. I like this change a lot. It's nice that they don't just kind of like randomly spawn and then just attack the nearest target. They attack the hero. So this is actually a really good change for Darkseer. Makes this spell much better than it was. Dark Willow, Bedlam damage reduced from 60, 140, 220 to 60, 120, 180. So nerfs to level 2 and 3 of Bedlam. It still does quite a bit of damage. I feel like this hero just melts people anyway, but it won't scale as well into the late game. Cool. Rotation duration increased from 1.5 to 1.8 seconds, so the Jax will circle you slightly slower than previously. Cursed Crown no longer grants vision after it's stunned. This is the big change for Dark Willow, because before, when you Cursed Crown somebody and they blinked into trees, for example, or running into trees to hide, you would then get vision of them, and that was super insane because you basically couldn't escape from Cursed Crown, and now you actually could just like blink into the trees and potentially escape. So I like that change a lot because that was way too strong before. Talents, level 25 talent increased from 1 terrorized duration to 1.5. So this hero is still good for sure, but this is a really big deal. So definitely a big nerf to Dark Willow. And Ember Spirit, Flame Guard, magical damage absorbed, rescaled from 50, 200, 350, 500 to 80, 220, 360, and 500. So better at all levels up to level 4 where it's the same. Searing Chains. And actually this is a fairly big deal just because the 50 it was very easy to clear the Flame Guard with like any nuke pretty much, and now 80 makes it a little bit harder to do that. I think it'll still probably get cleared, but at these early levels, just having a little bit of extra magic absorption means that you'll be able to keep the Flame Guard on longer, and that can be a pretty big deal for Ember Spirit. Searing Chains duration rescaled from 1.223 to 1.5 to 2.53. Searing Chains now does damage in 0.5 second intervals. I don't know what it did before, whether it was like second intervals maybe, but now it just will. If 0.5 second intervals is faster than before, or like more often, then it's better against like refraction, for example, or trees, damage block instances. And Searing Chains total damage has been rescaled from 80, 120 to 40, 300 to 90, 160, 230, 300. So better at the early levels again. So just buffs to Ember Spirit's early game, basically, is what all of this is. Invoker mana cost reduced on Invoke from 60 to 40. So this will be a nice little buff to Invoker in like the mid game, right after he gets his Aghanim Scepter, but before he has maybe like a Lincoln's or a Hex or something like that. Just the spells, if he's rotating through a bunch of spells in a fight, it will add up to have 20 less mana cost on each invoke spell. So a nice little buff to Invoker. IO, quite a few changes. Tether can now target spell immune allies. That's very nice quality of life change. It was super annoying when you're trying to save somebody and they BKB and you can't save them because you can't tether them. So I like that change. Tether cast point has been changed to 0. It was very low before, but now it's absolute 0. Tether no longer applies slow on impact. Interesting. So you can't slow people when you make the tether go through them. Wonder why they changed that. I don't know. Spirits now apply interesting. Spirits now apply the slow. Okay. So 20, 40, 60, 80% movement speed slow and impact for 0.3 seconds. Spirits now have 2 fixed positions. They go between 700 and 100 range out from the hero. And it's no longer toggled with 2 different keys. You just switch between them with 1 key. Okay. And Spirit's creep damage has been increased. Spirit's mana cost has been scaled. Spirit's collision AoE has been increased, and Spirit's explosion damage AoE has also been increased. So just quite a big buff to IO with the Spirits. And I think with probably once you get to like level 2, maybe level 3, you should be able to just kind of like rotate the Spirits in and hit one after another and keep the slow on them for like 1.5 seconds, potentially, if you hit them with all 5. Level 10 talent change from 400 Spirits max range to plus 25% EXP. And level 25 talent change from Tether stuns to 60-second relocate cooldown. What? Anytime I see one of these massive cooldown reduction, so 30-second relocate time at level 3. Damn, that's insane. That's really, really good. Cool. I mean, we're gonna see competitive Wisp anyway, so we'll see a lot more Wisp in pro games, or it'll be banned because this hero is just buffed and buffed and buffed. It's good. It'll be interesting to see how this this toggle, the toggling makes it a little bit easier to control the Spirits. So maybe we'll see a few more people play it in pubs. Who knows? Marana leap speed buff duration has been increased from 2 to 2.5, and attack speed has been rescaled to be better at the early levels. Moonlit Shadow now grants a 15% movement speed bonus while invisible, so it's like it literally is a better smoke now than it was before. Omni Knight base armor reduced by 1, purification cooldown increased from 11 to 14, 13, 12, 11. So it's worse at level. Early game Omni Knight has been nerfed just in general. Pangolier. Rolling Thunder no longer gets canceled when rooted or disabled. You just roll in place instead. So that's a buff for sure. Rolling Thunder cooldown increased from 70, 65, 60 to 70 at all levels. That's fine. But this is a pretty big buff actually to Pangolier, because before you could just net him and then suddenly he's no longer spell immune and he's in the middle of the enemy team, but now he stays spell immune at least. And will still knock people if they run into him. So that's a nice little buff to Pangolier's Rolling Thunder. However, Swashbuckle mana cost has been increased at all levels, and this hero struggles with mana in general. And as we can see, the mana regeneration talent is now minus, so it's only plus 1.5 instead of plus 2. Shield Crash cooldown has been increased pretty significantly at the early levels. And it doesn't count spell immune heroes, so slight nerfs to Shield Crash and the Swashbuckle. So I mean, this hero plus the Javelin change, Pudge base damage increased by 7, so Pudge punches pretty hard now. Rot slow reduced even more again to 11% at level 1, 18% level 2, 25% at level 3. They just keep nerfing Rot, but he does hit harder, so zone people by punching them, or maybe you last hit better as a mid pudge. God forbid. Ricky, Tricks of the Trade now attacks at a slower pace, nerfed from 0.5 to 0.45, 0.4 to 0.6, 0.55, and 0.5. So just think about that first level of Tricks of the Trade. That's what you get at max. And before that, it'll be slower. It's not really that big of a change, to be honest. He just has less solo kill potential early on. He's still going to be really good because his talents are still absolutely insane. Sand King, Caustic Finale no longer triggers when a unit is denied. This change is a pretty big deal for melee heroes playing against Sand King, because previously, like, you couldn't approach the creep wave. There was no way to stop Caustic Finale from happening, and now you can actually like outlast hit him on the creeps that he's going for, and you won't be punished for doing that because you won't take Caustic Finale damage by denying your own creeps that have Caustic Finale on them. So I really like this change because that just made this hero so annoying to deal with in lane as a melee hero. Slark base HP regen has been increased to 3.25. Shadow Dance move speed scales now to be faster at the last level and second. So buffs to Slark. Spectre, Spectral Dagger mana cost has been rescaled from 130, 140, 150, 160 to 100, 120, 140, 160. So this is nice. I mean, Spectre's mana cost on Spectral Dagger was so costly. Like, you could use it once or maybe twice in the lane stage, and then you're just completely out of mana. So I think you maybe get like one more use out of it now, or close to that. Haunt illusion damage has been increased from 40 to 40, 50, 60, so it actually scales as you level up Haunt. And now if you take the talent on Spectre, I believe you get like 100% illusion damage during Haunt with the talent at level 3. So buffs to Spectre. Terrorblade base HP regen has been reduced from 3 to 1.5. That's fairly significant in the laning stage. Reflection illusion now disappears when the reflection slow debuff is removed. So if you purge somebody or give them magic immunity or dispel, then they no longer have the illusion attacking them. So that is, it's good that it gives you a counter to reflection, because before you just slowed and being attacked by this illusion regardless. Sunder minimum HP rescaled from 25% to 35, 30, 25. So Sunder is worse early on. And the cast range has also been reduced. So I mean, you'll probably feel this. It's not a massive nerf to Terrorblade. The hero is still definitely viable, but you definitely will feel this. The big issue is that Sunder still requires no mana. So the hero is still definitely going to be strong, because that's the thing that makes Sunder so strong. Tiny's tree grab area damage has been reduced from 100 to 30, 40, 50, 60%. Thank God tree grab is such an insane skill as at 100. So this makes it much worse early on. Much worse for him. I still don't really like how it cleaves off of denies. That's kind of weird to me. But you'll definitely take less damage from tree grab. So nerfs to Tiny, which was needed. Hero's still decent, but that will make him probably a worse off laner, I would imagine, as well. Treant Protector Leech Seed duration has been increased, so you get 1 extra pulse of damage and heal. Tusk Ice Shard duration has been reduced from 7 to 4, 5, 6, 7. So the Tusk Shard block on the off lane is worse now. It's still going to be good because of how hard the off lane is going to be, but it's not like you're not maybe going to see only Tusk as the position for blocking the off lane. Snowball speed has been reduced as well at the early level. So this just makes his early ganking worse, which is needed because he was just so good at ganking in the early game. Frozen Sigil no longer provides flying vision, ground only. Interesting. That's a good also nerf to Tusk. Sigil did a lot. Makes it harder to find people when you're searching for them with it in the trees and stuff like that. Underlord, Firestorm overtime percentage base damage no longer affects Roshan or Ancients. Dark Rift mana cost from 75, 150, 225 to 100, 200, 300. So just nerfs to Underlord and nerfs to Underlord's ability to take Roshan specifically, which is good. He was super, super, super powerful because of that. So this is a good nerf to Underlord. Witch Doctor Maledict cooldown increased from 20 to 50 at level 1, 40, 30, 20. So early game Witch Doctor gets a massive nerf. Maledict was so good, and I don't know. I feel like it's going to be okay though, just because I think the build these days is really to max Maledict anyway. But you're not going to be able to just like constantly harass people by dropping Maledict and then right clicking them. You'll have to do it like every minute at level 1. Wraith King Wraithfire Blast mana cost has been rescaled to be less and scales up to 140. And Wraithfire Blast cooldown has been rescaled to be more and scaling down to 8. Level 10 talent change from 40 Wraithfire Blast DPS to a 1.5 second Wraithfire Blast slow duration. Definitely buffs to support Wraith King 100%. And I mean, I'm cool with that. I feel like that's kind of where the hero should be played anyway, just because he's like so bad as a carry. Just every carry does things better than him. But yeah, support Wraith King, definitely a possibility. The slow duration is going to be really nice, and it's against attack speed. So yeah, I like that. Whew. All right, guys, so that is the patch, and as you can see, it's quite a big patch. Lots of small changes. The biggest changes are definitely the changes to how offlane pull works. Significant nerfs to Pangolier, significant nerfs to Dark Willow, buffing Darkseer, and buffing Io for sure. So I hope that helps, guys. I hope you learned something from this video. Let me know what you are most excited about from this patch 7.14. Don't forget to check out our hero guides, which I will be updating for the rest of the day up to 7.14. So check that out a little bit later today. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.